Hello, Tony, your deck architect here, back on my channel once more with another deck profile. Last week was the official launch of Yu-Gi-Oh's latest core set, Dawn of Majesty, and from it springs a plethora of new deck options and archetypes that I can't wait to experiment and showcase to you guys in the coming weeks. But starting things off, we will be returning to the world of biblical fantasy once more with an archetype with a peculiar focus on both attributes and normal monsters, in the Magikey deck. So to give a wide overview of the Magikey deck, the Magikey is an archetype of monsters who draw inspiration from a 17th century series of books on demonology known as the Lemegeton Clavicula Salomonis. Etymologically, a majority of the monsters are corruptions of the 72 demons described in the books, and the name Magikey itself is a reference to the translated title of the series, The Lesser Key of Solomon. Playstyle-wise, however, the Magikey is an archetype capable of executing a variety of different plays, present of which from this wave of support is Ritual and Fusion. Furthermore, the archetype also has a sub-focus on normal monsters as well as the attributes shared between monsters in your graveyard and your opponent's field. And while that may all seem like a jumbled mess on paper, the archetype itself is actually incredibly functional. Thanks to the copious amount of support present for fusion and ritual strategies, alongside the insane support for normal monsters, particularly between normal monsters and rituals, the deck boasts incredible consistency to guarantee itself the ability to see its best plays out of any hand. Combined with some of their members' advantageous card characteristics, the Magikey deck is capable of producing very powerful boards off of almost any opening hand. And that is something I hope I'm able to showcase as I get through the deck profile. Anyway, I've droned on enough. Without a further ado, let's get into the deck profile. Starting off our deck profile, we have the key normal monster of the archetype in R3 Clavicus, the Magikey Skyblaster. Coming in at 1900 attack and defense, Clavicus really doesn't do much on its own outside of possessing the Magikey name for summoning conditions. However, I do want to bring some focus to its flavor text, which states the following. Everyone is full of possibilities. Everything you do, moving forward, stopping, closing, and opening is all in your hands. There are many doors in this world. To open them requires the magic key. 2 keys and 1 door. 2 wills and 1 body. Once the doors are opened, the worlds will be connected and the great power revealed. Now, outside of being a very nice poem, Clavicus's flavor text also sets the stage in how we approach and understand the rest of the archetype. As the poem suggests, Clavicus is a monster with many possibilities that can open doors for you depending on what you do to great powers. As a normal monster, Clavicus can be accessed through a number of normal monster support cards, and as a Magikey normal monster, can be used in a number of ways in the deck. In fact, a majority of your plays in this deck will be predicated on you having a normal monster on the field or in the graveyard. Thus, your ability to maximize Clavicus's various uses throughout the game will determine how effective your boards are. In many ways, Clavicus is the magic key stated in the text, and only through it and other support, i.e. 2 keys, can doors be opened to new worlds, and new worlds connected to reveal great power, and great power to make the best boards capable of winning games. With our only non-Nomi monster in Clavicus now covered, we move on to the quote-unquote boss monsters of the archetype, starting with our 3 Magicky McMusket Batos Buster. Named after the demon Barbatos, Batos Buster is a level 4 ritual monster that, when ritual summoned, can add any Magicky card from your deck to your hand. Furthermore, should an attack be declared involving this card and a monster whose attribute is shared among a normal or Magicky monster in your graveyard, you can place any number of cards from your hand to the bottom of your deck to negate that monster's effects and draw the same number of cards. As a level 4 ritual monster, Batos Buster is by far the most economical to get out, given that you can just use a Clavicus as tribute for its summon. And this is incredibly fortunate given how powerful its search effect is. Being able to search for any Magikey card not only allows you to grab Magikey monsters, but also Magikey spell and trap supports as well, a majority of which are key playmakers for the deck. This also complements its second effect, giving you an additional card to mulligan with or around to fix your hand whilst also negating effects as well. But the real power of this card lies in none of its effects, but in its card characteristics. For you see, Battles Buster is a tuner. As the first ritual tuner to ever exist in the game, Battles Buster opens up a whole new world of plays for the deck. As a level 4 tuner, Battles Buster naturally gives the deck synchro capabilities and, alongside a Clavicus, effectively gives the deck access to powerful level 8 synchros. But more than anything, as a tuner, Battles Buster allows you to make Crystron Halqifibrax, which gives the deck access to powerful boards previously inaccessible. This, coupled by how easy it is to search this card with the copious amount of present ritual support, makes Battles Buster a key consistent component in building some of your best boards, and a big focus within the Magikey deck. Next up on our list is 2 Magickey Mechmortar Garsglasser. Based off of the demon Agaris, Garsglasser is a level 8 ritual monster that gains 300 attack for each different attribute in the graveyard. While on the field, should your opponent activate a monster effect of a monster who shares an attribute with a monster in your graveyard, and Garsglasser was made using monsters of at least 2 different attributes, Garsglasser can negate that effect and destroy that monster. Furthermore, should a ritual summon Garsglasser be sent from the field to the graveyard, it can search for any Magickey monster from your deck. Similar to Battles Buster, Garsglasser also relies on attributes to interact with your opponent. But unlike Battles Buster, who only interacts with monsters who share attributes to normal or Magickey monsters in your graveyard, Garsglasser is much more flexible, only requiring that monsters share attributes with any monster in your graveyard. This makes Garsglasser negation much more easy to get off, and comboed with your ever-revolving menagerie of extra deck monsters, it's very easy to load up your graveyard with all 6 attributes to ensure Garsglasser can respond to any monster effect. Now, the attack boost is also a nice bonus, but the real icing on the cake is its float effect. Triggering off of being sent from the field to the graveyard in any way, Garsglasser not only has use as an economically efficient boss monster, but also as a potential extender as well, as linking or synchroing with him will also trigger his effect to grab you another Magickey monster. This, combined with his machine typing, gives you access to some cool synergies that really make Magickey Mechmortar Garsglasser key to a number of your plays. With the Magickey monsters now covered, we go on to our off-theme support, starting with our 2 Noble Knight Artorigus. As I had stated earlier, the Magickey deck has a clear focus on normal monsters, not just Magickey normal monsters. So it would make sense for us to play at least another normal monster to give us more consistent access to the full breadth of our plays. Now, there are a few reasons why we specifically chose Artorigus. The first is that it's a light monster. Given that our Magickey monsters rely on having various attributes in the graveyard to interact with our opponent, Artorigus being a light monster means that alongside the Dark Clavicus, we have at least coverage against the 2 most popular attributes in the game. Second of our reasons is that Artorigus is a warrior. Sharing a typing with Clavicus means that both can be searched with the same warrior support, giving the deck flexibility in choosing which one it wants to access for the situation at hand. Final of our reasons is that Artorigus is a Noble Knight monster, meaning that it itself can take advantage of Noble Knight cards like Heritage of the Chalice to search into this card. This makes Artorigus the most consistent of the possible normal monster options that we can play to ensure that we can brick the least with it. Moving past that, we then have our 3 Manju of the 10,000 hands. Manju's purpose in the deck is simple. When summoned, either search for one of your 2 Magickey ritual monsters or search for a ritual spell to summon said ritual monsters. Now, unfortunately, Manju cannot search our in-theme Magickey spell in Magickey Maftia due to the fact that it isn't a ritual spell, but it can search into something like our High Ritual Art, which can directly access our rituals from the deck. But we'll cover that later. But moving on from there, we have our Halqifibrax options in our 1 Despot 001 and our 1 Mecha Phantom Beast Coatwing. Both are core components of your Halqifibrax play by way of Mecha Phantom Beast Auroradon, with 001 giving you further access to synchro capabilities and Coatwing providing you a further medium to spawn more tokens to not only summon 001 more times, but also to be used as normal monsters for your Magickey plays. Finally, wrapping up the monsters, we have our hand traps in our Psyframe Gear Gamma package consisting of 3 Psyframe Gear Gamma and 1 Psyframe Driver. Like our last deck in Arcana Knights, a majority of our early plays will involve us generating an advantage while we control no monsters, meaning that we can use the Gamma package to protect those plays from hand traps. But unlike most decks where Gamma only serves that purpose, Magikey also have a secondary use for Driver in that, as a normal monster, it has synergy with some of our plays. In fact, part of our Hack-a-Fibrax line of play will require us to use Driver specifically to complete the board, making Driver much less bricky in Magikey compared to other decks. Going into the spells, we start things off with our main playmaker in our 3 Magikey Maftia. Maftia is a normal spell that, when activated, allows you to do one of 2 things. Either you can A. Fusion summon one Magikey monster using monsters from your hand or field, or B. Ritual summon one Magikey monster from your hand using monsters from your hand or field whose level total equal or exceed that ritual monster's level. However, should you control a normal monster, you can also use one normal monster from your deck as material or tribute as well. As I had mentioned several times before, Magikey is a deck that has a peculiar focus on normal monsters, and Maftia is the main perpetrator of that. To explain how that last line works, Maftia allows you to also use a normal monster in your deck as a material or tribute so long as you control a normal monster when it resolves. Now, in the case of the fusion summoning option, it reduces the number of materials in hand or field that you need to summon out a fusion monster. But what's more interesting is how it interacts with the ritual summoning option. Since the ritual summoning option only requires that you meet the level requirements of the ritual monster, by sending a normal monster of exactly equal or greater level to the ritual monster you are attempting to summon, you can essentially perform free ritual summons. This is especially useful given that Battlesbuster is a level 4 ritual monster, meaning that by either sending Clavicus or Autorgus from the deck, we are able to bring out Battlesbuster for absolutely free, which alongside our on-field normal monster gives us access to a number of powerful plays. Furthermore, the dump from deck also gives the deck an easy way to load up the graveyard with different attributes for your Magikey monsters. And since Maftia is not once per turn, you'll commonly find yourself activating Maftia several times in a turn to dump a number of normal monsters to build your board, not only setting up your field but also your graveyard as well. Moving on from there, we have our in-theme field spell in our 3 Magikey World. World, when activated, allows you to add any Magikey monster from the deck to your hand. Furthermore, once per turn while on the field, World can add one Magikey Maftia from the deck to your hand and then have you place one card from your hand to the bottom of the deck. Just off of the first effect alone, Magikey World acts as a rota for the deck, providing you another way to add Clavicus or your Magikey rituals from your deck. But the more powerful aspect of World is definitely its second effect. Given that Maftia is such a crucial playmaker for the deck, World being able to search into it once per turn is incredibly key to ensuring that you have a consistent stream of plays every turn. Furthermore, the bottoming of one card from your hand as a result of said search also has some nice utilities, allowing you to put dead cards back in the deck. This actually gives the deck a level of combo assurance when it comes to garnet cards like Callwing, as it essentially allows you to always ensure it will be in the deck for combos later. Like Maftia, World is searchable off of your Battlesbuster, and given that World can search into Maftia, it's more than likely that this card will be your primary search target for your Battlesbuster to get both your next ritual and your next ritual spell. Rounding off our playmakers is our 3 High Ritual Art. High Ritual Art is a ritual spell that, when activated, allows us to ritual summon a monster from our deck by tributing normal monsters from our hand or field whose level equates to exactly that of the ritual monsters. Now, thanks to the fact that both Garruslasser and Battlesbuster are multiples of 4, we can use any number of our Autorgus or Clavicuses to summon out either one. But in most cases, High Ritual Art will be exclusively used to pull Battlesbuster directly from our deck, allowing us to then search into our world to then go into our Maftia plays. As mentioned before, this card is searchable off of your Manju, meaning that we have 6 ways into this card, and given how normal monster focused our deck is, it's actually very easy to resolve this card at any stage in the game to get the deck rolling and the field building. Finally, finishing things off with the remainder of our deck, we have 3 Unexpected Die as another way to pull a normal monster from our deck, 2 Heritage of the Chalice as another way to grab our Torgus from either the deck or the graveyard, 1 Terraforming to search into our Magicky world, 1 Rhoda to search into either of our normal warriors, 1 Instant Fusion for a specific fusion play, as well as 3 Pot of Prosperity for maximum consistency. Then, wrapping up the main deck with the traps, we have the 1 Magikey Unlocking. Magikey Unlocking is a counter trap that can respond to any spell and trap negation and, while you control a Magikey extra deck monster or ritual monster, can negate said card, destroy it, and then change all monsters your opponent controls to an attribute of your choice. The idea behind this card is to not only act as negation, but to act as a cheeky way of converting your opponent's monsters to an attribute that is shared among those within your grave, making it easy for your Magikey monsters to interact with them. Now, in most cases this is hardly relevant, but the fact that it does negate spell and trap cards when Gar's Glaster can only negate monster effects does give this deck a level of omni negation that can be searched off of your Battles Buster to consistently cover all your bases. Going into the X deck, we begin with our Magicky Fusion, starting with our 1 Magicky Ancialabolus. Modeled off of the demon Glacialabolus, Ancialabolus can be made using any Magicky monster and any non-token normal monster. When fusion summoned, Ancialabolus can grab back 1 Magicky Maftia from our graveyard, and once per turn, while on the field, Ancialabolus can target 1 attack position monster your opponent controls with an attribute shared among that of a normal or Magicky monster in your graveyard, and change it to defense position, reducing its defense by 1000. Furthermore, any monster destroyed by Ancialabolus is banished instead. In terms of being an on-field threat, Ancialabolus is definitely more bark than bite. While the battle-changing effect can come in handy, it's severely limited in its use relative to your graveyard, and is entirely useless against link monsters. Ancialabolus' real strength comes from its on-summon effect. Being able to grab back Maftia is incredibly useful, allowing you to perform a second ritual or fusion summon after the first one to generate more field presence. This is especially sweet given that Ancialabolus can be fusion summoned using instant fusion as well, providing the deck an easy way of not only putting up an extra body, but also grabbing back its fusion spell to go into a more powerful play. And one such powerful play is our next Magicky Fusion in our 1 Magicky Dragon Andrabime. Based off of the demon Andromalus and clocking in at 2800 attack, Andrabime can be made using 1 Magicky effect monster and 1 non-token normal monster. When fusion summoned, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects, and while on the field, Andrabime can target 1 normal or Magicky monster in the graveyard and destroy all monsters your opponent controls that share an attribute to it. Furthermore, should an opponent's monster sharing an attribute to a monster in your graveyard be destroyed, and Andrabime was made using monsters of at least 2 differing types, Andrabime can draw you 1 card. Now, compared to Gar's Glaster, who is clearly more defensive, Andrabime is your offensive option. Its destruction effect essentially acts as a limited Magikey for your opponent, allowing you to target Artorgus or Clavicus in your graveyard to nuke all light or dark monsters your opponent controls. This also fuels Andrabime's second effect, allowing you to generate advantage off of that nuke. Unfortunately, due to Andrabime's summoning requirements of a Magicky effect monster, your ability to make this card is severely limited to mostly off of Ancialabolus or Battles Buster. But in a pinch, Andrabime is a great option to make to simplify board states and generate massive tempo in your favor. Finally, wrapping up the X deck, we start with our links, beginning with the 1 Cross Sheep for abuse with our rituals and fusions, 1 Psyframe Lord Lambda to make our Gamma more live, 1 Hakafyrax and 1 Auroradont for powerful field generation, and 1 Axis Talker to finish games. Moving into the synchros, we have 2 Herald of Arclight that we can make off of our Hakafyrax play, 1 Crystron Quandax that we can make instead of a Herald if we need a level 4 tuner, 1 FA Dawn Dragster that we can make using a level 4 tuner and a Mecha Phantom Beast token for spell and trap negation, 1 Draco Berserker of the Tenny for generic level 8 disruption and OTK potential, as well as 1 Borlode Savage Dragon for further negation. Finally, wrapping up the X deck with some Xyz, we have the 1 Daigusto Emerald for Recycle and Revival, and the 1 Zeus you can slap on top of the Emerald should the situation arise. Realistically, you're more than likely to be banishing these two for your prosperity than to make them, but given Emerald's ability to revive cards like Clavicus or Artorias to make Magikey alive, it's not the worst inclusion for the deck. Now it's at this point that we once again reach the combo component of our deck profile, and for this combo component I have two things to showcase. The first is a set combo that can be achieved through a number of hand configurations and ends on 3 negates with amazing recovery. The second will be our mandated test hand for our deck profile. So not to delay things any further, the deck is shuffled, the field is ready, let us begin. So starting with the set combo, this play can be executed with any opening hand that can successfully land a Ritual Summon Battles Buster and another monster onto the field. This can be accomplished in a number of ways that I'll let you guys discover, but for the sake of the video, let's say we accomplish this by opening a Manju alongside a normal monster. The way that this play is going to work is I'm going to start by normal summoning the Manju, using Manju's effect to then grab a High Ritual Art. I'll activate the High Ritual Art, sending the normal monster in my hand to the graveyard to summon out a Battles Buster, with Battles Buster's effect then triggering to then grab me my Magicky World. From there, I'll activate said Magicky World and use Magicky World's effect to grab my Guards Glasser. I'll then activate Magicky World's second effect to then grab the Magicky Maftea as well and put a card from my hand to the bottom of the deck. And this is a good opportunity for me to put cards like Cult Wing back to my deck, of which I'll need later for my combo. From there, since I control a tuner in my Battles Buster, I can then link away these two monsters to then make my Crystron Halqifibrax, with Halqifibrax then triggering to summon out my Despot 001. Now you know where this is going to go. We're going to link away the 001 alongside the Halqifibrax, both as machines, to summon out my Mecha Phantom Beast Auroradon, with Auroradon then summoning out 3 tokens as part of its effect. Since I summon 2 machines at the same time, I can then also trigger the effect of my 001 in my graveyard to summon itself to the field as well. From there, I'll synchro summon with the 001 alongside a token to summon out a Crystron Quandax, of which I'll then activate Auroradon's effect, triggering the remaining 2 tokens to summon out the Cult Wing back onto the field. Cult Wing will then trigger to summon out 2 more tokens onto the field, and since I summon 2 machines at the same time, I can summon back the 001 a second time. From there, since I control a normal monster, I'm going to activate my Magicky Maftea, and using the token as a normal monster, I'm going to send a driver from my hand to the graveyard, and alongside the token, to summon out my Mech Mortar Guards Glasser. And since Guards Glasser was made using a Wind token alongside the Light Cypher driver, it is now made using 2 different attributes and has its negation live. From there, I'll then synchro summon using the token alongside the Despot 001 once more to make a Herald of Arclight. And it's at this point that my Cult Wing goes back to level 4 since there are no more tokens to increase its level. And that's perfect because I can then synchro summon with the Quandax to make my final negation in my Borreload Savage Dragon, with Savage Dragon then triggering to re-equip the Crystron Halqifibrax, gaining 2 counters, of which we will then pass turn to our opponent. Going into our opponent's turn, let's do a quick head count. Starting off, we do have a Herald of Arclight as well as a Borreload Savage Dragon for 2 Omni Negates. Furthermore, we also have an Auroradon on the field, which contribute another monster to pop a card on the following turn, contributes 2200 points of damage, and as a link 3, can be linked away with any other monster to make an access code on the following turn for more pops and more damage. More interestingly though, we also have a Guards Glasser made using a Light and a Wind, thus his negation is live, being able to respond to any monster effect that shares an attribute with a monster in our graveyard. Speaking of our graveyard, let's take a quick look at the attributes we have available. We have a Water in our Crystron Quandax, we have a Wind in our Cult Wing, we have an Earth in our Despot 001, we have a Light in our Cypher driver, as well as a Dark in our Battles Buster, essentially putting 5 of the 6 attributes in our graveyard. This gives Guards Glasser an additional 1500 attack and allows it to respond to any monster effect barring fire. So unless you're playing Volcanics or Infernoids, essentially Guards Glasser is a negate for any monster effect. Furthermore, there's also a recovery aspect and a follow-up play for this deck. Note the fact that if Herald of Arclight does tribute itself or gets sent to the graveyard, it searches for a ritual monster or a ritual spell, both of which we play. Furthermore, if Guards Glasser was to be sent to the graveyard, either being linked away with the Auroradon for the access code or being destroyed, it can also grab a Magicky monster as well. Combined with the Magicky World, which can then grab us a Maftea, we essentially have a follow-up play that essentially leads to the game on the following turn to put big pressure on our opponent. Now, I know a lot of you will ask, what happens if we no longer have access to the Cypher driver? And that is a valid concern. Given how powerful Gamma is, we may have to shotgun it early to either stop one of our opponent's plays or to protect one of our own plays, and as a result of that, we lose access to the driver to be sent from the deck to summon out our Guards Glasser. As a result, our combo does have to change a little bit, however we could still end up on 3 negates. Using the same opening hand of Manju and a normal monster, we're going to repeat the same steps we did last time up until the point that we make the Auroradon to summon 3 tokens and the 001. This is where things will change. Instead of synchro summoning for the Quandax, we're instead going to directly synchro summon out our Herald of Arclight. From there, we're once again going to activate Auroradon's effect, tributing the remaining 2 tokens to once again summon out the Cult Wing, in which doing so will then summon out 2 more tokens and summon back the 001. From there, we're going to directly activate the Maftia, and since we control a normal monster in the Mecha Phantom Beast token, we're going to send any normal monster from our deck to the graveyard, of which will be banished thanks to the Arclight, and then tribute the Cult Wing to summon out the Guards Glasser, once again made using 2 different attributes. Finally, we're going to synchro using the token and the 001, and we're going to make a second Herald of Arclight, of which we then pass turn to our opponent. Going into our test hand, the hand that we're going to be working with this week is going to include 1 Heritage of Chalice, 1 Bathos Buster, 1 Instant Fusion, 1 Magicky World, and 1 Sideframe Driver. Okay, so this hand is powerful to say the least. Knowing what we know about our last combo, we already have the pieces necessary to produce that same end board. But given the fact that we have the Instant Fusion, we might be able to produce something much more powerful. I'm going to start things off by activating that Heritage of the Chalice to grab us a normal monster in our Torgus. From there, I'm then going to activate the Magicky World and use Magicky World's effect to immediately grab my Guards Glasser, before then activating Magicky World's second effect to grab our Magicky Maftea and put the Sideframe Driver to the bottom of the deck. From there, I'm going to normal summon the Artorgus and then activate the Maftea, and since I control a normal monster, I can send a normal monster from my deck to the graveyard, in this case, let's say, a Clavicus, to summon out the Bathos Buster. Now, since I already have activated the World, I'm not going to grab World with Bathos Buster, instead I'm going to grab the Magicky Unlocking. From there, you know where this is going to go. We're going to take a tuner and a non-tuner, and we're going to link those away to make our Krishon Hakafibrax. And Hakafibrax, upon being summoned, will then allow me to grab my Despot 001 directly from my deck. We're going to link away the Despot 001 alongside the Hakafibrax to then make our Auroradon once more. Auroradon will summon out 3 tokens, and in doing so, we can bring back our Despot 001. From there, we're then actually just going to directly synchro once again into our Herald of Arclight instead of the Quandax, and you're going to see why soon enough. We're going to activate Auroradon's effect, tributing the remaining 2 tokens to once again summon out the Cult Wing from our deck. And in doing so, we're going to summon back 2 more tokens once more, alongside the Despot 001. From there, we're once again going to synchro using the Despot 001 alongside the token to make another Herald of Arclight. Now, this might confuse you. With the fact that we no longer have Maftea, how are we going to get the Guards Glasser on the field? Well, that's where this Instant Fusion comes in. We're going to activate this Instant Fusion, and in doing so, we're going to summon out the Anciella Bolus. And since Anciella Bolus was now successfully fusion summoned, it can grab the Maftea back from our graveyard to our hand. And this is perfect because we can then activate the Maftea using the normal monster that is a token. We're going to tribute it alongside banishing the driver seriously for some reason to summon out our Guards Glasser. And since Guards Glasser was now made using a light and a wind, its negation is live. Once again, we control no tokens, and Cult Wing is now once again level 4, which alongside the Anciella Bolus, which is also a tuner, we can synchro summon out our Boarload Savage, with Boarload Savage then re-equipping the Hakafibrax once more. We're then going to set the unlocking and then pass turn to our opponent. Now, in terms of pure output, this is by far one of your most powerful fields. Let's do a quick head count again. Starting things off, we did end up with the same 3 negations as we always would with the Hakafibrax board. We have the 1 Guards Glasser made with 2 different attributes that can negate any monster effect that shares an attribute with a monster in your graveyard. Now, in this given situation, since we didn't make the Quandax, there is no water in the graveyard, which means that unfortunately Guards Glasser can currently only respond to 4 different attributes: light, dark, earth, and wind. And as a result, Guards Glasser will only clock in at 3200 attack in this instance. However, we still have the Borreload Savage Dragon alongside the Herald for 2 Omni Negates, but we also ended up on an additional Herald of Arclight for a second Omni Negate. This essentially gives us not only 3 essentially Omni Negates, but also 2 follow-up plays when these Heralds go to the graveyard. Furthermore, what's also interesting is that instead of searching the world since we opened it, we also grabbed the Magicky Unlocking, which can negate any spell and trap card as long as we control the Guards Glacier. Furthermore, since Unlocking can change the attributes of any monster when it activates, it essentially allows Guards Glacier to respond to any monster effect so long as our opponent activates a spell and trap. This not only makes Guards Glacier a lot more flexible, but it prevents us from losing to things like Dark Ruler no more, essentially giving our board very powerful responses to almost every answer your opponent might have. And that's going to do it for our Magicky deck profile. So what are my opinions on the deck? Well, as the archetype often suggests, I think this deck has a lot of potential. Given how absolutely over-supported rituals are, the ability for this deck to easily access the game's one and only ritual tuner gives this deck a lot of crazy plays that can win a lot of games. And with the upcoming support in Burst of Destiny, this deck is eyeing to only get better with its own archetypal synchro and Xyz. Sadly, the over-reliance on normal monsters does make this deck somewhat bricky at times, and it doesn't exactly have a great game plan if your ritual or fusion play fails to go off. However, given how vast the support for Ritual and Fusions currently are, especially with Drytrons and Shaddolls currently in the mix, I wouldn't be surprised if someone were to take this deck in an entirely new direction to fix these weaknesses. But regardless, this has been Tony, your deck architect, with a Magicky deck profile. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next time.